Hey guys, welcome back to Inside the Storm. I'm your host Zane, and today we've got a wonderful show for you in what's going to be our final show of the season. A lot of talking points from the Storm's win against Lara, what that means for the rest of the season, and moving into next year, what the Storm has achieved. Let's get straight into it. The match week 20 fixture against Lara probably had the biggest build-up of the entire season, with the biggest potential upside and importance to it. Obviously, the previous week winning against Heidelberg Stars meant that if the Storm was able to win against Lara, and Thornbury dropped points, then the Storm would officially be saved from relegation, which was ultimately a huge bonus for the season and a positive, and would mean achieving the goal of the season after the first few weeks, where it looked like potentially relegation might be on the cards, getting that safety for next season and retaining their league position in State 5 was everything the Storm was playing for, and ultimately what the goal became after obviously the title charge looked improbable. And so huge stakes going into this game. And I definitely think the Storm was the ones playing under the most pressure, as Lara had already been relegated. Obviously, Lara have really struggled this season. So they went into that game, since their relegation has been confirmed, almost in a complete free hit. So getting to play with that freedom away from home, all eyes were on the Storm to go out there and get a win. And I think that pressure can go one of two ways. Either it can really motivate a team, or it can really hinder a team in their performance. And definitely in that first half, you saw a really vibrant, energetic Storm, I think, taking that goal early, courtesy of Eunice in a great finish and some brilliant build-up. Just, chance after chance after chance. And ultimately it felt like, the onus was on the Storm to get the second goal and secure safety. And I think that was probably the biggest talking point in half time was, all right, the Storm needs to get the second goal, because in a game like that, a 1-0 win, a 1-0 lead, you never know what can happen. And so that second goal really maintaining the result, but also in obviously achieving the goal and winning the game. Obviously not knowing the scores for the Thornbury game was also a big one, because the Storm didn't know whether they had secured it at halftime or not. And so really the importance was just, batten down the hatches and get that, 2-0, 3-0 win, keep the clean sheet and see what happens, after the game finishes. But definitely during the game, all focus was on just the Storm getting the 3 points, despite whatever happens. Even if Thornbury had won and mathematically hadn't been relegated, it would have meant that, they'd been in a really strong position going into the next two games. So a really important result, and I think we saw that in all the performances. You saw Blue put in a real captain's performance, a lot of leadership on the pitch, Eunice with some individual brilliance, Ahmed, Bruno, obviously Blue, Gorky, all of the forward players had so many big chances and some beautiful interlink. I think players like Samir had a brilliant game, Zach. So just all around, and defensively, I mean, extremely solid. You saw Thornbury was unable to really hurt the Storm, and I think maybe having one shot on target over the whole 90 minutes. So overall, really complete performance, and obviously winning that game brought so much, I would say almost relief for the Storm, that they had maintained their position. Ultimately, they had achieved that goal, and at certain points in the season, it looked extremely difficult that potentially survival would be possible. And I think after around match week 6, match week 7, the Storm looked like one of the sides that would be a favourite to go down. So you really saw rallying from the team, and I think that overall they can take that as a real big positive moving into next season. And these last two games left kind of become just like free hits to experiment for next season, see what possibly structures can be worked on and made now before going into the new year and the new season. So really massive win, genuinely I think probably the most important win of the entire season. Here are the squad's thoughts on just how important that win was.
Yeah, look, I think my boys didn't play to the expectation I had, but look, we won. We got the 3 points, and hopefully that keeps us safe from here.
Yeah, very happy. Very happy with the clean sheet. Very happy with the performance and the response in the second half from the boys. In the first half, I thought we were a little bit complacent, but the second half, we really dominated from start to finish, and we got another goal, which was important. And yeah, very happy with the 3 points and the clean sheet.
Yeah, look, great atmosphere. Really good to see a lot of the parents, a lot of the juniors come down, support the team. I think they worked like a 12th man today and really pushed the boys along. Look, no game in this league has been easy, but I think it was comfortable in the end without being overly easy, and I think the support helped a lot.
Yeah, it was a good performance from everyone. I feel like in the last 2 weeks we really connected well, keeping possession of the ball more, and the results showed. We won 2-0 today. Really strong performance and result. Hopefully it secures us in this league. Obviously we're waiting on a different result to go our way. But yeah, really happy with the team. Everyone put in the effort, and I feel like we deserve it.
Now, holistically, obviously, that confirms the Storm's position for next season in State League 5. So a huge achievement. Looking at the last two games, the Storm does have the potential to move up to 7th or 8th with two potential wins and obviously two really, really big games in terms of difficulty. Melbourne City is a big local derby for the squad, and obviously Bendigo away for the last game of the season can be potentially extremely difficult. So ensuring that security at that time was an absolute massive victory, and I think you saw that in all of the performances and the scenes at full time when the Thornbury score was released, and once the Storm had found out they'd secured safety, I think it was just a huge sense of relief and positivity that the Storm had achieved safety, and I think that was exactly the goal that evolved from the season overall. And so overall, just a massive, massive victory and a massive moment of importance. I think a potential relegation this season for next season could have been really, really catastrophic for the Storm's overall trajectory as a club and the kind of the progress that they want to make. And so overall, getting to that safety point is absolutely massive. And playing in this league next season, being able to evolve and develop and continue to establish themselves as a men's senior outfit, and especially playing it in the competition levels, going from promotion last season to a potential relegation this season would have been really, really detrimental to the overall progress. And so ensuring safety and looking on towards next season is extremely positive. And definitely I think now all eyes go on to next season of how the Storm can improve now that they've established themselves as a State League 5 side. How can they improve next season and potentially push on to finish top half of the table, top 4, even potentially look at promotion. All of those factors come into question. I think it's the job of the coaching staff now to assess what needs to be done in the off season, what improvements need to be made holistically, not just for the senior team, but for the club as a whole, to compete next season and become more competitive in the current level. We saw this year, I don't think there was many games that really were complete blowouts, and the Storm was competitive in most of the games, whether that be against top of the table Moonee Valley, as we saw in match week 3, or whether that be sides like Doreen, who both times the Storm lost to 1-goal deficits. So really potentially competitive progress for next season, and I think the Storm can definitely build on all the learnings from this season, what it takes to win this league, because it is obviously extremely competitive, and what improvements can be made going into next season to potentially look for a potential promotion with some changes in whether that be in the coaching staff or the playing staff, etc. But overall, really, really positive, and to get that promotion and that not promotion, sorry, to get that survival for next season and place retention in State League 5 is overall really, really positive for the Storm. And I think doing that 2 games early as well, not having to go down to the final game day, being able to do it at home and using that home advantage. We saw all the fans turn out and stuff, which was lovely to see, all the club support for the squad, for the players, getting the juniors involved. So really, really brilliant overall. And I think the ending of the season has been extremely positive for the Storm, all things considered. And securing that place retention before playing a tough local derby and playing away at Bendigo, which can be extremely difficult, is super, super positive, because I think if it had gone down to the last day, then nerves play into it and all that added pressure. So being able to do that early days is brilliant. And yeah, this will be the final podcast for the season, obviously, now that the squad has retained their position. The next 2 games don't mean as much besides just potentially moving up the table. So this will be the end of the podcast. We will pick up next season before before the season starts. Obviously, in preseason there'll be a lot of content around the new squad, potentially some of the staff changes around the club, any kind of big announcements. So definitely stay tuned. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you for supporting the season, for following, whether that be with the senior team or with the juniors, and how brilliant they've all been. Obviously, for the juniors, they still have another 2 weeks of the season as well, with the Family Fun Day coming up this Sunday, as well as them potentially playing in a bunch of different competitions depending on the squad. So Shepperton's still there, Keilor's still there. So a lot of action still for the junior calendar as that winds up. But for the seniors, I think we will take a bookend on the season at this point and look towards preseason and look towards building now for next season before we jump straight back into it. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all your support this season. I've been your host, Zane. It's been an absolute pleasure bringing the show to you guys, and we look forward to seeing you guys very soon. Take care. See you.